Wake up, everyone, the day is only dazzling. I wish I could do that justice. I wish I could sing more of it. Anyway, it's from an album called Bright Phoebus, spelt bright, and then Phoebus. Yeah, and highly recommend it. Just two people put it together, Lal and Mike Waterson, both dead now, and they live quite locally actually. And but they got, when the word went around that they were putting this album together, all of the well-respected folk musicians, half of Span, half of Fairport Convention, etc., came to help them put the drums and the bass and the backing vocals. And anyway, that's just a little aside. Highly recommend it, by the way. I don't think there's a bad song on it, and there isn't a song that doesn't move you in some way, or move me anyway. Anyway, wake up, everyone. I know more people are waking up, but it's not fast enough. I am very impatient. I know it's a virtue, patience, but I am a man of little virtue. And okay, it could take a generation, and that's fine as long as it does get to everybody, and it becomes what I call mainstream. The lies and deception have gone on for far too long. People want to know where they are. Now, so a couple of vlogs ago, I did an outside one. It was a lovely day, and I just thought, well, I can do this because it's batteries, and I never really thought about it much before, like doing that. But I just want to show people that I don't, just don't sort of huddle in this shed all day, because I really don't. And I know people get used to seeing, like Dell in his shed, and I've never thought for 1 minute that he spends 24 hours in there. Not at all. But some people may haven't that sort of opinion. Okay, that said, although I'm very, very, very lucky person, I am very lucky to have all this. It doesn't really mean much unless I know where I am in the greater scheme of things. I'm very happy to be here, by the way. Immensely happy. The most happy I've ever been. And part of that is because I know I'm not living on a spinning ball. Quite a big part of it, I would say. And the other is having the freedom of where I live. But I'm well aware that many people don't live in such beautiful or easy or free even circumstances, and a change, any kind of change, would be good for them. Now, I don't want a change, I just want information. I want to be here. If there are other places to be, then that's great. But I don't know whether I'd like to go. And what I'm saying is, I'm perfectly happy where I am, and I have no agenda in that sense. why do I do this? Why do I sort of stick my head above the parapet and for all the abuse? Well, one thing I know is it's true. I know that we don't live on a spinning ball. Water could never um, conform to the exterior of a spinning ball. I don't care how big it is. In a vacuum, hurtling through space, it's utterly ridiculous. And I want to tell people about that. So that's partly why I do it. I want to find out for myself what is our reality, apart from the world being obviously a level plane. And I don't know if they can hear that rail or rain or hail. Oh, we could call it rail, couldn't we, for a crossbreeding of the two. So it's not as if I'm trying to dig myself out of the shit or anything like that, because I'm as happy as a pig in shit. I just want to see justice. I know lots of people, you could do that on a spinning ball, I suppose, but just think of all that money that goes to the space programs in around the Earth, like India having a space program. And I know that all is not well in that country. People have been exploited. And just to prop up some fantasy world of bullshit, that isn't right. Now, maybe you've seen recently there's been sort of an expose on this, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's a big building that NASA have. And it's where they fake everything, all the things we've seen recently anyway. I'm sure probably didn't do the moon landings there. It's probably, after that. It was probably built after that. But it's a building the size of, over 30 football pitches. And that'll be American football. I don't really know the size of a soccer pitch, to be totally frank. It's never really interested me. Soccer, football, American football, anything like that. But you can imagine it's a massive place. And look it up anyway. I'm sorry I don't have the proper name for it. I just can't remember it. But you may have seen it. But there you go. The conclusion that the only conclusion you can draw from seeing all that technology that's available to them is, why should they go anywhere? They can do it all there, and they don't go anywhere, and that is the point. Green screens coming out your ass, huge ones. It reminded me a little of Pinewood Studios. I think that's where they shot the end scene of Spy Who Loved Me, the James Bond film, the best James Bond film in my opinion, just because of the Sherpa van. I love that. It was like a commercial for British Leyland that just brought out this new van called a Sherpa van, and the big fella, with the metal teeth, destroyed it. Oh, between him and James Bond, anyway, they destroyed it. Roger Moore, of course, and was it Barbara Bach? Very nice double agent or whatever she was. Anyway, it's all nonsense, by the way, all James Bond and that sort of thing. But there is such a thing as the Secret Service, but I can't tell you about it because it's a secret. So, NASA are lying. NASA are stealing the money from taxpayers. And it's not only NASA. What's his name? Elon Musk. I can't remember what. Oh, SpaceX, of course. They get massive funding from elsewhere. Can you hear the rail? Can you hear the hail hitting the tin roof? Yeah. Now I'm going out in that, and it's through choice. I've got a friend who's going to come, and we're going to go for a walk on the moors. Yeah, it's a bit mad, but I will have a hat on and a coat and wellies. So you may have also heard, it was on the news anyway, that they're always worried about this. The ice caps, the polar ice caps melting. Oh fucking hell. I used to live right next to the sea. You couldn't get any closer, really. And that was 20 years ago at least now. More than 20 years ago. Oh my God, it's nearly 20. Anyway, it's nearly 30 years ago. And I went back not too long ago, and the sea level hadn't risen a bit. Now, you'll all be aware that if the ice is in the sea, in the oceans, and it melts, it doesn't matter, because the same volume is taken up by ice and water. When it melts, I mean, obviously ice expands. It's something like 10% or something more, or I can't remember. But yeah, it was a bit. Also, the other thing I could never remember was the PSI, and it's actually 14.17 or something like that. That's a lot more than I thought. Anyway, so there you go. So those space suits that the astronauts wore should have had something like at least 14% pressure in them, and they would have been blown out like Mr. Blobby. They should have looked like Mr. Blobby. I fucking hated Mr. Blobby. Fucking hate, and all that shit. I never watched it, of course, but you couldn't avoid it at the time. Anyway, that's what they should have looked like. Probably not. What was it? Pink with yellow spots or yellow with pinks? They didn't have to do that. The white suits would have been fine, but the pressure inside, because that's what makes our lungs work. If we don't have a good enough pressure, if the pressure drops, we cannot breathe air. Our lungs don't work, and that is fact. So nobody went to the moon. Obviously, the moon is something that you can't go to anyway, but you could pretend to go to the moon in that big building that NASA have, and you could also pretend to go to Mars. And that is the problem. If people don't cotton on to this and wake up, then that's what will happen. They will give it a few years for them to write all the computer programs and do all the CGI, and then they'll go to Mars. They'll pretend to go to Mars, and these hypnotized globe Earth disciples will lap it up. So it's the day after. Yes, thanks. The walk was very nice. Thanks, Mike. So I'm posting a video with this at the same time of the moon mainly. And when you see the full moon, it isn't actually full, it's just starting to wane. It's the day after the full moon. And the main reason that to post it is there was a goose, or shall we say a flock of geese. I could hear them honking in the sky. And it was quite late by then, but by then you wouldn't expect them to be flying. Only bats, maybe. But there they were flying. And I captured just one of them, I think, transiting the moon. So that was quite an achievement, and it was just luck, good luck. And if you freeze the frame, well, I edit that piece out and put it between the Red Skies piece, yeah, just so you can capture it or freeze frame and see the bird and the moon kind of in focus together and think about that. And then the music, turn it down if you don't like it, or turn the whole thing off, or whatever, it doesn't bother me. But I just explain for those people who want to know, because could have been even people who were there at the event I'm talking about. So the first part of the music is just a jam in the attic of the house I used to live in, and the second part is chronologically afterwards, about maybe a year later, and Mike had to come up, the guitar player had to come up from London, where he was living at the time, to play this gig. We hadn't rehearsed. I'm not making any excuses, because it was great, actually. You know, a great thing to experience, just going on stage and playing from the seat of your pants. And the venue was quite close to the whole of Horkham, Salters Gate Inn, an old pub that is now been demolished. Everywhere we've played, it's been either flattened or burnt down, or no, it's quite well, I won't go into that now. And it's quite close to the Filingdales early warning station. You know, that big American radar thing that is just bollocks, really, in my opinion. Just a scare tactic. So that's that. And before I go, I'd like to just say how pleased I am to see Harry Growler posting stuff, and great stuff as always. Thanks, Harry, and thanks, Del, for all you do. And that's it. Right, cheers, man. Ta-ta.